Dallas is West Dallas, a bleak, poverty-ridden community that's been one of the early dumping grounds for the city's solid waste. One of the oldest and most controversial industries in the neighborhood has been the 63-acre Murph Metal Secondary Lead Smelter, called RSR. It went into business in 1934 and is located near the Thomas Edison School and a 3,500-unit public housing project. At its prime, RSR pumped more than 269 tons of lead particles into the West Dallas air, what some describe as a toxic stew. The toxicity of lead has been known for some time. It's one of the most widespread environmental hazards in minority communities.
Medical experts will tell you that it decreases the IQ level of children. It does permanent damage to your cognitive abilities. It also tends to settle in the bones, doctors have told me, so that you can have aching, arthritis-like pain in the bones. And I interviewed many people in West Dallas who complained of that. They complained of sluggish thinking and sluggish movements and pains in their legs and their arms, particularly people who had worked at the RSR smelter.
In 1984, the state finally ordered that the smelter be shut down and that a cleanup follow in a half-mile radius surrounding the smelter. In 1985, it was declared complete, despite warnings from the Centers for Disease Control that the children living near the plant had lead levels twice as high as was considered safe.
Once West Dallas was pronounced clean in 1985, despite what the CDC had warned, no one wanted to go back in there. No one wanted to look at this community again. It was like, let's shut our eyes, let's move on to bigger and better things.
But West Dallas resident Luis Sepulveda felt the CDC's warnings should not be ignored. His own nephews and neighbors continued to have unexplained health problems, prompting Luis to do an investigation on his own.
The test came back with 7 chemicals: lead, arsenic, chromium, calcium, zinc, mercury. We were very concerned about the lead, and it came back at 2,300 parts per million. And I didn't know what it means. I didn't, when I looked at it, okay, so just, we have lead. But after we found out that standard was 500, we said, wow, what in the world is going on here?
Fighting back, Luis organized the West Dallas Coalition for Environmental Justice. Their goal was to have West Dallas designated a federal Superfund site, a designation that would give access to some $20 billion allocated for the cleanup of toxic waste.
And the fact that we had these test results that we could show the state and EPA themselves brought swift attention from them, because they didn't want to be embarrassed about not finding something that citizens had already found out. And then you have to go out and communicate that information.
That communication included making the lead issue so highly visible that people would be forced to react. Their tactics included issuing warnings to the community of potential hazards, disrupting Dallas City Council meetings, and even picketing the local EPA.
We have won the battle, and we're going after the war now.
In May 1993, West Dallas won Superfund status. But the community also recognizes that even when the lead-related problems are cleaned up, there are other industries alive, well, and still polluting.
Having seen that, what's your reaction to that? Besides, we both look remarkably young.
Yeah, our hair color has changed quite a bit.
Indeed.
Got a few more wrinkles.
That was before I knew I was a spring person and not an autumn.
Yeah. See, but the people that are around here don't know Jim like I know Jim. I saw Jim working on, I think on Crowley in another location, and me and my mother were sitting down, and Mom said, that's the guy we need to get in here. So I came in and started looking for Jim Schirmbeck, and once I talked to Jim, within a couple of days he was already at our house. I knew that this guy meant business because he reacted really quickly, because everybody that I always try to contact, City of Dallas, EPA, all the different agencies, toxic people that were supposed to be helping us out, never showed up. And when he showed up, He just came in and started telling us a little bit about the neighborhood, what's going on, stuff on it. Because my father worked at one of the companies. My father worked for, used to be Rubber Roy Company, which is now GAF. I think everybody knows it now by GAF. My father worked in the asbestos room. My father passed away 3 years ago now. Because they don't call it mesothelioma, my dad died of kidney cancer.
Well,
So he was not
only
able-
that, they lived across the street from a W.R. Grace facility that deals with the raw form of asbestos. We didn't know this at the time. This was
Right.
it's another facility we didn't even know. This was a year or two I found out after the fact when W.R. Grace got in trouble for the same thing up in Montana at the Libby mines up there. And they brought that stuff down to West Dallas, and so there was another source of exposure for your family from that, I'm sure.
But it was really strange because once, I don't know exactly what Jim did other than I knew he organized and helped organize the community. Then I came in and see that he comes out and came in and say, hey, do you know that there are 92 industries in West Dallas? I said, pardon me, Jim? Yeah, he says there are 92 more industries. And he said, and I stopped counting. And that kind of, that kind of left me because we were having a lot of meetings with the city of Dallas and stuff. And when we were having the meetings with the city of Dallas, let's say that each one of us are industries here. Let's say there's 92 of industries here, okay? You own 10, you own 10, but every one of your 10 companies are within the 40,000 parts per million, right? So then I would tell them, well, 92 times 40 parts per million, isn't that a little bit too high? Oh, no, they're within their restrictions. They're within their rights. I said, but am I getting across to you? They started acting pretty stupid and dumb. And I kept on just harping on it. I would just say, that you have your 20, you have your 20, you have your 20, 20, 40, 60, 80. I mean, hey, come on. Doesn't take a genius to figure that out. No, they're within standards. So Jim came in and says, well, just let's start going out and testing things. So we did. We tested Fish Trap Lake. We checked between Hernandez's, between the walls, my parents' attic, my parents' yard, my parents' front yard, backyard, the guys next door water cooler. I think we did about 11 tests, and we decided we're not going to be in this together. We invited a couple of ministers to come with us because I figured that my word is not any good.
You made that decision. I did not make that decision.
My word was not going to be any good, So, but when we have this many individuals, then we came in and Jim helped us out with a national toxic campaign in Boston at that time, I think.
Yeah.
We sent all the 11 samples in. When they came back, everything came back contaminated. Everything. There wasn't anything that did not come out. And I was hoping that there would be maybe one thing that we could start working from and grow from. But everything came back. The water came back, in between the walls, the attic. My parents' home had 2 inches of layer of contamination of lead. You see, the only thing separated the lead smelter was Thomas A. Edison School. So we came in as geniuses. We went before the PTA and stuff. They were saying, there's nothing wrong with this kid. This is the #1 school in Dallas. And wow, I just said to myself, boy, they really got me. So then I came back and I met with the principal because my children were going there. He said, the thing that they didn't tell you is all those kids are being bussed in from North Dallas and East Dallas. I said, oh, okay. One thing I found out from Jim Scherbeck, if you open up your mouth and you better know it and you better have your homework done. Because if you don't, the press is going to tear you up. And if you don't know, just say, I don't know. Because that's how the credibility that we got. You see, when we were working on West Dallas case, none of the newspapers wanted to pick up the story. None of them. You figured that, hey, look, everything contaminated. And we had to go in and protest the Dallas Morning News. I had to come in and talk to somebody named Gilbert Ballon, which was a good friend of mine in the Dallas Morning News, says, you see that wall right there? He said, yeah. He says, that whole wall has to be filled out with articles before the Morning News gets it. I said, what do you mean? He says, go out to the Hispanic newspapers and get them to do stories. Okay, so I came in and started, because in the Hispanics we have Novedades, El Sol, I mean just every newspaper in our Hispanic community. So they were coming in and they were actually writing stories. So I came in and sent it to Gilbert. The wall's full, so I said, Gilbert, let's do it. He said, my boss said both sides have to be. Okay, you don't never say that to me. You just don't do it. I went back and we started writing more articles and giving them to the press. I'd take pictures, write up the deal, give them to the press. Then I turn around, came back, and he says, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. This afternoon here, we'll have 400 people in front of the Dallas Morning News. Dallas Morning News, after that, opened up their doors to everything we wanted. Everything. But because it was really strange, they didn't want to write any articles and stuff. But I had a lot of good advisors, elderly. Miss Baptiste was about 88. Miss Hopkins was about 87. She was my vice president. They came in and says, how come you're not in this paper? So I looked at it and I said, high profile? I said, no, the high profile for the city of Dallas is if you got a company, or if you're making millions, or if you're a big top political person, they'll put you there. She said, we'll take care of that. Didn't think a word about it. Next thing I know, she's coming in and she's sending stuff to the Dallas Morning News. So I go meet with the Dallas Morning News at Mr. Irving, and Mr. Irving says, because you wrote these letters and stuff, those 3,000 people, we're still not going to put you on high profile. I said, what are you talking about? She said, you don't know about these? I said, no, can I see them, please? So he let me see them.
So this was a huge thing they ran on in the Sunday paper, profiling this or that pillar of the community every Sunday. They did this for years and years and years.
I went back to Miss Hopkins and I told her about it. She said 3,000 said they're doing. She said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Next thing I know is they call me back. 5,000 had been sent by her. And then next thing I hear from the morning news is that one of the persons that was supposed to be already scheduled, because we have this whole thing already scheduled for 2 years. Listen, I could care less. I don't want. All I want you to do is go write some stories about people in our communities. I'll give you some names. Go talk to them. Don't have to be about me at all. I want you to see the sicknesses in our community. Next thing I know is I tell her that that's not going to happen. Don't worry about Ms. Hopkins. Let's just keep concentrating on trying to get this community activated as to people recognize what's going on in the neighborhood. She didn't give up. Turn around, I went back, it was 10,000 that she had sent. They had come in and said somebody was not going to be able to make it, so for the next issue, I was going to be there. So I said, Miss Hopkins, this is not the thing I want to do, please. I mean, please, this is, no, you're going to do that. So I went and did it. So I showed up with my red shirt, and I'm there, and they come in and says, I'm sorry, but you have to wear a suit and a tie to be in the high profile. I said, well, you better take it now because it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be in a suit and tie. So next thing they know is they put me by our power plant, and that's how everything started to see what was going on. I became a high profile, therefore, because I became a high profile, a lot of stuff started happening. We had to come in and take this thing before Judge Buckmeyer, because he said they were saying the city of Dallas, the environmental people from the city of Dallas, were saying the only lead that we know is in your heads, because there's nothing wrong with it. But we came in after doing the test, then we came in and brought it before Judge Buckmeyer. So Judge Buckmeyer came in, and we were there, and it was Michael Daniels and Lori Bashar and Mr. and Mrs. Bashar. Those were my attorney. Then I'm turning around and I look, and there was that many attorneys on the EPA side.
By the way, Mike Daniels still doing public
Civil rights
housing work in the city. You'll see him in Jim Schuetz's columns and others
Right.
a lot still.
He came in and he was working, Michael Daniels was working on a African-American issue in the housing projects, because there were some mothers in there that wanted to move their children out. They wanted a backyard, they wanted a yard, they wanted just like everybody else had. Plus they wanted air conditioning. There was no air conditioning in the housing projects, so they wanted those. So Mike Daniels said that our case is not going to be, it's going to take 4 or 5 years to to get into court? You're in the court. We got you in the court. Can we piggyback on you? And I said, and what does West Dallas get out of it? We get to represent you for free. Come on. So they came in and helped us out. And as soon as we were there, I remember all the attorneys, and I remember this Jewish attorney, probably about 4 foot high. The clothes, his shoes would not even bend when he walks. So I'm saying this guy was getting paid big bucks. He went before Judge Buckmeyer and he told him, excuse me, West Dallas has just been declared an emergency superfund, therefore you have no jurisdiction. None whatsoever, Judge. So the judge tells the attorneys and says, excuse me, y'all been telling this guy Sepulveda that the lead, and he's crazy that there's no lead and stuff. Now you're coming before this court and you declared West Dallas not a superfund, but an emergency superfund. There are two differences if you're not aware of it. A superfund is that everything should be cleared out. An emergency superfund that nothing should be living at all. But because they wanted to develop West Dallas, they overlooked everything. They overlooked the standards when we were going out there. I was taking pictures like crazy. Good thing that they made big old cameras I had to carry everywhere with me, but I took pictures just of everything. I would go in where they had monitors, where they were supposed to be cleaning up. They weren't plugged in. Monitors to air, quality air to check the air, they weren't even plugged in. We had to come in and try to get this story out of Dallas. So any articles and everything that I got, I start sending it everywhere. I started putting pictures of everything. Jim told me we have to sell ourselves. So I came in, I sent something to the Boston Globe, the National Law Journal, New York Times.
Which that was the result of. The woman there in the film is from the National Law Journal. They ran a series. That's what prompted the PBS station in Boston to do that. So
one of them was the National Law Journal. They came in and I sent them a package, and some of the packages I was taking pictures. I just wanted to let them know how bad it was. There was this African American woman standing in the back in her screen, just this little screen. And right in front of her was this guy in a bobcat with moon suits. So I came in, I took that picture, and I sent it to everywhere I could. Next thing I know, the Boston Globe tells me, "Is this your picture?" I said, "Yes, it is. Don't give it to anybody and stuff. I'm on my way home. I'm on my way to West Dallas." So he came in and saw. He says, "I cannot believe that this is going on. They are well protected. She is not being protected at all. The only thing protecting her was the screen." And that's what hit the fan. Went everywhere. Boston Globe. Next thing I know is even Waxman is calling us to testify in West Dallas. But we had to be our own PR. I remember coming in and telling Dad, we're going to sell our house for $1 million. Dad said, my dad, not a great, well-educated man, but God bless his soul, he was really hard and tough on us, especially us being us 9 and being 6 sons. He was really, really tough on us, but he wasn't the greatest educated man. He only had a 3rd grade education. He says, "Dad," he said, "Son, how many zeros are there in a million?" I said, "Dad, put as many as you can on it, and don't worry about running out of space." And that grabbed another attention, saying that our house is worth $30,000 less $1 million. And it started grabbing attention everywhere. Right now, we came in and looked at it. One of the guys from, I didn't know, but the guys from the last story that came in was about 2 years ago, in close to Christmas, they were saying that there were over 2,800 articles on West Dallas. I was not aware. I thought maybe there was 400 or 500, but I was not aware. He said with your name on them.
can you talk a little bit about how difficult it was to form a multiracial group at the time? Because at that point everybody kind of had their own turf, and I believe that was the first time that West Dallas had a group like y'all's. Can you talk about some of the resistance you got from
I got a lot of it
the
from
black and brown establishment?
I got a lot of it from the Minister Alliance. I also got a lot of it from the African Americans. I'm a Latino, and Latinos don't come in and lead. We always came in and we always were supporting the African American community. So I came in as a Latino and leading the group, The group itself and the community itself didn't mind. It was the ones that had power to be that were concerned about me leading. Because we were leading and we were marching with the union said they had to take head counts of how many people were in the march. They came in and said, you got 5,700 people here marching in West Dallas. They were so much concerned. Henry Martinez, one of the gentlemen from West Dallas, came in and says, the Hispanic leaders are teed off at you. And I asked why. He says, because you're on the newspaper all the time. I tell him, come here, I'll give them the press, let them speak to the press. I have no problem with that. But we need to get this out there because of the things that's happening. But a lot of the people that I talked to, Jim, that I talk to now, were coming in and saying, that we were getting paid to disorganize this group. And I say, why are you telling me now? It's not of importance. It is of importance because we could have gotten so much more done and so much more things done. See, the Minister Alliance came in, the African American Minister Alliance came in, were really extremely upset with me. They even had a march right down Hampton to try to stop the ones what I was doing. They came in, when they marched, they came in, the only one that was there were 20 ministers. There were no people. So I came in and I told them, look.
Now tell them what their motive was, though.
Their motive was that.
Why would they care? Why would they care?
The EPA came in and had a meeting with them, telling them that if you come in and you sign off to this project, your membership, the people that are your members, will be able to get these $35 an hour jobs. So they came in and signed off saying that it was okay, that go ahead and...
Back up though. They opposed you originally because they were some of the biggest slumlords in the area and their property values went down every time you were on the front page of the paper with lead stories.
That's correct. That's correct. They were very upset because I was hitting them in their pocketbooks. And they were very upset because they were the ones that were supposed to be leading this, not me. I'm just a kid from West Dallas, born and raised in that area. I didn't have enough sense to see all the political stuff that was going on around me. All I knew is I had an issue. All I knew is I wanted to get something done. And my issue was to try to get West Dallas cleaned up. My issue to try to figure out why all these people were getting sick. My issue is to find out is why they weren't coming in and doing health surveys all over this neighborhood. My issue was because they contaminated and polluted us, that why these people, our people, why we weren't getting compensated and paid.